Hi guys, and welcome to Rathwulven Bushcraft. Today I'm going to do a tiny talk video, and I would like to talk about the topic Bushcrafters and their relationship with landowners or forest rangers. The reason why I want to talk about this is that I still see a lot of postings in online bushcraft communities and also hear a lot of stories in which bushcrafters got in trouble with landowners or forest rangers. And I would like to share my personal opinion on how to behave properly, how to show proper conduct, and how to bring both parties back together. In order to talk about this topic, we first need to define what I actually mean by forest ranger or landowner. Well, basically I mean any type of authority for a certain spot of land. That can be a private landowner that owns a tiny forest in which you would like to camp. It can also be a state official, like a park ranger, for example in the Wicklow Mountains National Park or maybe the Yosemite. Those people that have the authority to make decisions, to also make decisions like basically sending you away from that spot, making decisions like fining you, making decisions like calling the police in order to get you off their property. All these type of people will be labeled as rangers in this video. The bushcrafter, on the other hand, is basically someone like me or someone like you that goes out, wants to spend a night, maybe build some stuff, just do whatever kind of outdoor activity without being the actual landowner and the actual authority. So if this is of interest to you, stay tuned, here we go. Alright, so what does a forest ranger want? And how does a forest ranger think? I think it's most important to understand the other mindset so we can act accordingly to that. What do I mean by this? A forest ranger is predominantly interested in protecting the wildlife, protecting the nature you're in. If it's a private landowner, protecting his property and making sure that nobody goes out there and chops down trees, like right here, and destroys the actual property of that person. They're also eager on preventing littering, for example, and they want to make sure that there are no forest fires. So we have to accept and understand that those people have good motivations to go out there and do their patrols and also their controlling, because in the end it's about protecting nature and protecting property. That said, we as bushcrafters need to realize that if we are just visiting a certain spot of land, we are only guests at that very spot. Also in general, I would like to advocate the opinion that we are just visitors in nature. Nature is kind of like the house for all wildlife, for wild boars, for deer, for basically everything that grows and walks around and is part of this biosphere. So as a bushcrafter, we are always in a certain way invading this certain spot. Please note that I'm not judging people in good and bad if they do so. I just want to illustrate that this is basically what happens if we go out into nature where we are not living anymore. In that sense, we're not primitive men anymore. So yeah, again back to the rangers and the landowners. What they want to do is make things right in terms of ecology, the same thing with the littering part and protecting the environment and property of certain people. It's not that they personally hate you or hate me. It's not that they have a lot of aggression towards people. They're just doing their job. That's the first thing we need to acknowledge as bushcrafters. From there on, we can start a debate on how to conduct ourselves and where to go from there. Alright, that said, I would like to move on and just basically describe the different type of bushcrafters that are out there and how they are perceived by rangers. Okay, so I would like to make a distinction between three different types of bushcrafters or survivalists or outdoor people that go out there and do their stuff. Well, the first category describes all those people that go with a low profile. That basically means people that just carry a day pack, walk around and are foraging for mushrooms, for example, maybe just taking a hike, not carrying any kind of heavy equipment and not having a huge impact on nature. So basically all those that don't build permanent shelters, maybe if they spend a night outdoors at all, just use a bivy sack like that and do nothing else fancy that has an impact on the entire environment. The second category would be the typical bushcrafter that goes out and is processing a lot of wood, maybe builds a campfire, a fire reflector, maybe even a permanent shelter, and has the intent to stay outdoors for longer periods of time. So for example 3 nights or a couple of weeks even. And then there's the third category, which basically is a group of category 2 people. So a group of people that go out with the intent to spend a lot of time in the outdoors, build a camp for everyone, build a big fire and stay there together and having a great time as a group outdoors. So why is this important to understand? Well, the forest ranger and the landowner that owns that certain property or is protecting that environment in which we move might have a different look on these different types of people. Because if somebody's just taking a hike and has no big impact on the biosphere around him, he will be by far more accepted than the other type, in which there's, for example, a group of 10 people going outdoors, building a permanent shelter, and then drinking 2 or 3 crates of beer, making a lot of noise, disturbing the wildlife, and maybe even leaving behind a lot of trash and a lot of rubbish, right? So that's the first thing we need to understand, that there are different categories, because it will help us to find a way to show proper conduct out in nature that can be understood by the forest ranger. So, that being said, I would like to invite you to do some kind of thought experiment, some kind of mental experiment right now. Picture that you were the forest ranger, that you were in the shoes of the person responsible for this forest right here, and you're walking around, and then you pass by and you find me. How would you perceive me? And how would you perceive me if I wasn't camping here with this rather basic setup and just seeing me with my backpack, walking around and just having a look at all the beauty of nature here? Would you have a different perspective? I think so. Then picture me sitting here with 5 friends, making a lot of noise, maybe having a huge campfire here with all the sparks just flying up into the canopy. Maybe there's a lot of beer bottles right here. Maybe you're out there with friends and you smoke certain type of cigarettes, you know, that enhance your condition, and you're doing whatever kind of party stuff that is disturbing all of that biosphere right here. How would you react if you were the forest guy at that very moment? Then take another example. Let's say, for example, that I wasn't wearing these clothings, but I would be in full camouflage, maybe even carrying a bow and just strolling around in the underwoods and looking like this kind of zombie apocalypse type of survival guy, like this cliche prepper image that we have in today's society. How would you react then? Would you consider me a threat because you think there's some kind of paramilitary type of nutjob walking around in the forest? Or would you just accept me for being there because you think I'm just a hiker? Just try to play around with those certain images and try to understand how a forest ranger or a landowner might look towards you and how this person might perceive you. Because it gives a lot of understanding why certain decisions are made. I have been in situations in which I have been addressed by bypassers or by hikers or by trekkers or also by people that are working for national parks, just asking questions what I'm doing here, why I'm building this stuff, why I'm spending the night outdoors. I usually have a very good reason that I can explain to them. I can also tell them how I conduct my own type of bushcrafting and that my principle is nature first, bushcraft second. If I can explain this, the resonance of those people will be completely different to somebody who might walk around and just be completely stubborn and just insisting that he has the right to do whatever he wants out in nature, doesn't even take care about his fireplace maybe makes a fire if we have like a class 5 forest fire warning and just does not pay attention to what's going on here. So I would like you to really take the time, maybe also sit down for 5 minutes and just contemplate about this. How do people perceive me? Especially if they have a totally different perspective on wildlife, in the sense that they are here to do their job and to protect it. If you can understand this, you will have an easier time talking to those people and making the right decisions. Okay, so that being said, I would like to give you some kind of very concrete and very defined examples of what I think is the right way of bushcrafting, of what I think is the right way to approach these people and how to behave in order to avoid conflict. Because in the end you want to do your stuff, you want to follow your own passion, and you want to participate in your hobby, and you want to bushcraft. And at the same time you should show respect to the other party. And there's a couple of things that if you really do them and incorporate them in your everyday life will help you in just doing this properly. So if you want to, off we go. I'm going to explain a couple of steps to you, alright? Okay, so tip number 1, be honest at any time. Only through honesty you can create trust. Secrecy and lies will never result in trust, they will generate distrust. So if you're trying to defend yourself and try to make a forest ranger believe that this camp isn't actually yours, and you're closing down and you're going in defense mode, you will be a part that is in resistance mode against the forest ranger, and that will create more resistance in the forest ranger. On the other hand, if you're just transparent and they know with whom they're talking, they can trust you, you know? So just be honest at any time. This also brings us to point number 2, which is communication. Communication always has to happen first. Ask before you go out. Talk to landowners, talk to forest rangers. Listen to their perspective and explain yourself too. You can always get permission. So you can always get a yes. And you always have the no. The refusal is already there. You're not allowed to do your things on private property or in certain type of parks by definition, but you may get the permission to do so. So reach out and talk. Maybe I should tell you a little story about Kelly, who's a forest ranger in the Wicklow Mountains National Park. I had a really great conversation with her, and I basically learned a lot, so that they are open-minded to bushcrafting, that they're open-minded to people that use hobo stoves, and that they simply want people to not make open fires somewhere and just pay a little respect to nature. They're not categorically against bushcrafters, they just want things to be done right. So by reaching out and talking first, I generated trust. They could trust me, I could trust them. Everything was set and there was no base to create any trouble from, you know? Pretty simple, so communicate. Then tip 3 would be moderate in what you do. Don't go out and cut down a ton of trees and don't process a ton of wood. It's not particularly necessary. If you build a fire, keep it small. A fire about that size can get your food done. You don't need those huge log fires. It's just not a necessity. The same thing counts for building shelters. I got a poncho right here and my bivvy. That's all I need. I don't need to build big tents or a fortress made of pine trees. Just scale down a bit. It gives a better impression in my opinion. Alright? Then number 4, be sober. Don't be drunk. Don't be otherwise intoxicated so you become aggressive. Just be very natural. This will resonate towards the other people, and the same thing will resonate back to you. We have a German saying which goes like this: Wie man in den Wald hineinruft, so schallt es heraus. The way you shout into the forest, it will echo back. It's a pretty nice saying, because it's true. So keep that tips in mind, alright? Then I have to say another thing. If you do all of these things, there might still be a situation in which your opposite conversation partner, the forest ranger, the landowner, maybe a hiker, maybe a bypasser, maybe even a police officer, will not be able to have a proper conversation with you and things are escalating. If they do, I want to share some tips with you on how to conduct yourself in that case. You cannot influence the mindset of the other person, so don't try to exert control. Instead, be mindful and just relax and breathe in if people are addressing you in an aggressive way. Let's take an example. Forest ranger passes by approaches me and is like, "Hey, what you doing here?" and blah, 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 and gets really aggressive towards me. I need to calm down. I have to be silent for a short moment after he's done ranting, and then I'm telling him, "Good day, how are you doing, sir? My apologies. Let me please explain myself." And then I continue in a very, very, very calm manner. The reason why I need to do this is that it always takes two to tango. One person alone cannot start a fight if there's nobody to fight with. So calm yourself down. Don't go in defense mode and start like, "Yeah, but I was just here like," and blah, 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 blah. No, calm down. Maybe be silent for a moment and give that person a chance to calm down. Then explain yourself. Name reasons. Then also show understanding. If a ranger or a property owner is still telling you to leave, tell them that you understand, that you will pack your things and that you will leave. Don't tell them that you know it better, that you will nevertheless do this, because it also creates friction. Your goal is to keep friction at zero. Very important. The same thing with your fires. If somebody passes along and says, "Hey, you're not allowed to make a fire here because of this and that," maybe because you don't know yet also how to build proper fires or how to engage in all this knowledge about dangers around forest fires. Just as a side note, also educate yourself about that, but let's assume you just don't know better at that very point because you're just starting. Listen to that person, put out the fire, apologize. Very important, show understanding. Because also if you give trust to people, they will give you trust back. If you will be reasonable towards them, they will be reasonable towards you. So just put it down a notch, be of a de-escalating nature rather than escalating nature, and do understand that your conduct is also part of the entire problem that's hypothetically created. There's always two people that argue, never just one. Alright? So, that said, I think we basically covered everything that in my opinion is important for this entire topic. Again, I can't stress it enough. Be respectful, be aware of your surroundings, be eco-friendly, maybe live according to our slogan, nature first, bushcraft second. I think that's a fair hierarchy, right? And again, if you like that video, please also leave a comment. Please share your ideas with me. If you do disagree, just post a comment and explain why you disagree or what could be done better or why you're doing things differently. Let's have a conversation, alright? If you like this content, please also share it with people. Please make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you subscribe and press the tiny bell symbol so you stay up to date. If you have any suggestions on other topics that you would like to be addressed from my side, just drop a comment below and let me know what is of interest to you, so I can think about it and maybe shoot another video. And yeah, just to wrap it up, thank you very much for watching. I very much appreciate your time. Have a great time outdoors and see you next time. Bye bye.